Okay, hello and good afternoon. My name is Jeanette and I'm from the Consumer and Investors Office at the Securities Commission of Malaysia. Before we begin today's webinar, I'm delighted to announce that SC's annual flagship event on investor education, virtual InvestSmart Fest 2021, is scheduled between 8 to 10 of October 2021 and is now open for registration. Register now at www.isf2021.my and stand a chance to win attractive online vouchers via lucky draw giveaways as well as pop quizzes. And in conjunction with this event, we are also organizing a youth public speaking competition and also virtual Scam Buster Treasure Hunt 2021, of which the registration for the Scam Buster event is still open for those who are interested. For more information, please visit our social media platforms for more information. With that, I would like to move to our InvestSmart Online Series webinar today. Our webinar today is on the impact of blockchain and digital assets in the Malaysian market. Next. We are pleased to have with us today Dato' Fazli Shah Anwar from MX Global to present on the topic of the impact of blockchain and digital assets in Malaysian market. Allow me to share a brief background on Dato' Fazli. Dato' Fazli is the CEO of MX Global Sembilan Berhad, a recognized market operator, digital asset exchange regulated by the Securities Commission of Malaysia. MX Global is a cryptocurrency trading platform that allows merchants, consumers, and traders to transact cryptocurrencies. Dato' Fazli has over 17 years extensive experience in the digital and startup world, both locally and abroad, directly as a founder and venture capitalist NGO. Previously, Dato' Fazli was the Chief Strategy Officer in MDEC. His extensive work at MDEC and on the My Digital and National Fourth Industrial Revolution policies adds value to the relevance and opportunities for digital assets and blockchain field, beyond not just private industry, but also the public and civil society. Dato' Fazli has also developed a network of ventures and investors across ASEAN, including fintech players and sophisticated high net worth individuals, institutional investors that actively support the adoption of blockchain technology across opportune sectors. Dato' Fazli is also an advocate for digital and financial inclusion in 2020. Led the working level intervention of this issue at the APEC Finance Ministers process. Now, please stay tuned till the end of this session as we'll be having a short Q&A followed by a pop quiz session for all participants. As mentioned earlier, a total of 1,500 in online vouchers are up for grabs. There will also be top 5 winners and consolation prizes. Winners will receive an email within 24 hours. Further to this, we will also like to invite the participants to take the survey. Next. Please do follow us on our social media platforms for useful information on investing and latest updates on our initiatives. Now I will pass over to Dato' Fazli to share his presentation on the impact of blockchain and digital assets in Malaysian markets. Dato' Fazli?
Hi, Jeanette.
Hi.
Thank you so much for having us today. Thank you to the Securities Commission for hosting MX Global today. I'm super excited to be talking about the opportunities and impact of blockchain and cryptocurrencies on Malaysian markets and really Malaysia as a whole. And as you kindly have introduced, Jeanette, I have spent the last couple of years in national service, what I would say national service in MDEC. And when we looked at the plethora of things which are really happening in tech all over the world, I frequently ask myself a question like, where could Malaysia really have a leading edge? Like, what isn't fully baked yet that we're not too far away from that horizon? And many times I came back to the same answer, which is that blockchain is going to reinvent everything, right? And we're at this stage now in blockchain where there is still a lot of opportunity for the supply side, for the companies which are going to be involved in the industry development in Malaysia. At the same time, we could leapfrog adoption just by the very nature of, I think, like the high level policies which are happening, and really kind of at some point, like the 37 million person population becomes a competitive advantage, because this is going to be much harder to adopt in much more larger and more complex economies. So without further ado, allow me to kind of bring up the slides here. And again, thanks to the SC for having us, right? Today, we want to kind of really spend some time and talk through where we see blockchain and cryptocurrencies headed in Malaysia, and how that would impact the local markets. And of course, I think above all else, we similar to what the SE has shared at the beginning of the hour, really try to assure everyone that the best ways to kind of enter into this very, very exciting new world of cryptocurrencies are through the regulated means, right? Because you don't want to be caught out in a scam. There's a lot of money at play, yes, but also you're really investing into something that you may not really know and be able to see, feel, and touch at some of the other asset classes. So it is something that we do respect the SC's kind of tempo and direction in terms of regulation, and we do advise a lot of the Malaysian consumers, both individual and institutional, that you should be investing with the regulated and the licensed exchanges. So really looking into this, I'd love to take you through hopefully the next half an hour, really in four main parts. Number one, what is really blockchain, right? And subsequent to that, what are these things called cryptocurrencies? How would either of these or both of these kind of change the way that we experience the Malaysian economy? And of course, then if I want to get into this space, how do I buy my first Bitcoin? So first and foremost, what is blockchain? Well, in simple terms, blockchain is just better than Excel. Blockchain is at its very core a different way of organizing, accessing, and sharing data that you may be doing in your own personal endeavors or in your companies, probably using something like an Excel sheet, or maybe for some people, some of you who are more advanced, the equivalent of something like Microsoft Access, if we were back in the early 2000s, but probably now today you're using some sort of database layer. To kind of expand on that, really blockchain kind of changes the game for how we use data and information. At its core is this technology called the DLT. Initially, it was called the distributed ledger technology, right? And most blockchain applications, if not all, are based on this thesis of organizing and then accessing information. And what makes this so much better than maybe a static Excel file or maybe even your own standalone database layer within your companies is really centered around 7 kind of key traits, right? And all of this are possible because of the consensus, the collaboration, and of course the cryptography, which is where cryptocurrencies get their name from, which is embedded within this network. So number one, it's distributed. Number two, it's anonymous, it's unanimous, it's time-stamped, immutable, secure, programmable. But what does it really mean? When it's distributed, it means that Excel file or that the equivalent of the Excel file doesn't just sit in your one laptop, it sits in multiple machines, potentially all over the world, that then communicate with each other to make sure that they're all having the same updated copies of the information. Number two is anonymous. The network doesn't care who the machines are as long as they perform their roles. Number three, it is unanimous. And depending on different rules that the different networks have, the information that you have at any one point that's accepted is accepted unanimously throughout the network and has probably gone through some sort of criteria that they've said before, that the majority of the network has to accept new information coming in. And if that information was not concurrent or kind of, that there were multiple duplicate copies, then the networks have protocols to be able to make sure that only one version of that is going to be accepted, and that's typically the one accepted by the majority of the network. Of course, number four, everything's time-stamped. So when everything happened, if you look into the blockchain, and that's linked to the fact that it's immutable. Once something happens in the past, it can never be changed. It can never be changed in the future in that exact point in the past. Of course, in the future, selling one Bitcoin can be counteracted by buying one Bitcoin, right? But those are two different entries within, in that case, the Bitcoin ledger. Because the whole thing's distributed, it's secure. No one person can kind of exploit all of the information. In fact, in the blockchain network, somebody did a study a couple of years ago and worked out that it's going to cost upwards of hundreds of millions of dollars for somebody to basically control the majority of the network and then to be able to effectively change records within the blockchain. And even that, because it's immutable, you could only change future records, not even the ones that have already happened. And of course, for a lot of cryptocurrencies, is this token, this idea that it could be programmable, right? That's where you have this this concept of smart contracts, where basically the machines are told exactly how to execute what task. And it is like to a certain degree a form of automation, yes. But what it really kind of allows to happen in these large scale networks is that you don't have to trust other players in the network, because they will have to, one way or the other, abide by the rules which are set in these protocols. So when we hear this, I think that's the base concept of what blockchain is. But I think over the last few years, there's been some confusion, or rather we call them myths within the blockchain space. Number one, that blockchain is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is actually one of the many applications of blockchain, but of course, it's kind of just skyrocketed into popular culture also. And I'm sure that a lot of you have read the tweets by Elon Musk and a lot of these guys who are very notable tech luminaries. And so that's why I think, understandably, a lot of people think that Bitcoin is blockchain. Later, I think in the presentation, I'll kind of share with you why, even though this is not academically true, Bitcoin does dominate the majority of the movement within this space. Number two, that Bitcoin is better than the traditional database or even your Excel files. This is, I would argue, true to a large extent, because it could replace very complex networks. But having said that, not every network is as complex, and not every network needs to be distributed. So that's why there will be some cases where some business models or some information models are much better served with something which is more centralized for various considerations. Number three, that the blockchain is immutable and tamper-proof. This is true up to the point that of hacks and abuses. So there are no systems which are 100% safe from a cybersecurity standpoint, but of course, the larger projects have kind of invested a lot more effort and good practices to make sure that the networks are very difficult for somebody to kind of exploit. That same is true for blockchain is 100% secure, which is that there is a layer of cryptography, or in some cases multiple layers, but these are also, you have to bear in mind that they are also man-made. So it means that they are harder to break, but it does not mean that they're not that they are unbreakable, right? So these are risks which exist within the spaces, but I think relative to what we've had before, the level of security of a blockchain is far beyond what we have seen in the past through the internet. And of course, the fifth is that the blockchain is a truth machine. Every record that exists on the blockchain, for example, the Bitcoin blockchain, is true, but where that truth comes from is because it's anonymous. As long as somebody puts in something and then the network agrees that has happened, that's the truth. So the truth in this sense is very objective within the blockchain, but it may be very subjective to you, because it may be an event that you do not recognize, or maybe for certain economies or businesses, it's an event that you do not appreciate, but then now it's already recorded. So the truth part of it is subjective, but what is true within that is that once information is committed to the blockchain, it's there forever. And when we kind of look at how this will kind of impact our lives, there are really six primary use cases for the blockchain, right? To kind of address two major needs. Number one is that there's static information that needs to be stored, and number two, that there's information that has to be traded. So on that first one, if you look at the static registry, like our IC, our national IC database, or even our land registry in Malaysia, these are all informations which don't change every day, and it could benefit from a lot more security and distribution. Of course, related to that is the fact that even though the national IC system is a database in itself, but it's also used by other services. So to distribute this identification against identity fraud, or even voting records or civil registries, is something that the blockchain could really serve quite well. And the third is, of course, to really automate some of these things where the static registries could benefit from. That could be anything from your insurance to distribution of new content like music. So you could automate a lot of that through smart contracts, which are available through certain blockchain projects. The second part is where I think a lot more people will feel the change in the how the economy is conducted. Number one, in dynamic registries. So number one is in those dynamic registries, things that change quite often. So you have this in So for example, if there were a building and then now there's only one Sdn Bhd that owns it, you could make that dynamic by allowing hundreds, if not thousands of people to kind of own part of the asset, and that also could start being traded on digital platforms, right? So this kind of brings us to kind of a new way of looking at financial innovation. If we've seen that in the stock market, for example, we've seen that with the rise of REITs. So this may be, I guess, some people might consider it like REIT 2.0 or smart REITs on the blockchain, right? Also, then you look at payments infrastructure, because as people are adopting similar blockchain protocols and projects, similar cryptocurrencies, it makes a lot of, I think this is a bit of a faux pas term, especially to our friends at BNM, but essentially using cryptocurrencies as a form of payment or maybe as an analog to payment, right? To kind of bridge that cross-border business need is something that could be done very fast, because these networks are global, and so they would be agnostic in terms of like where the players are. And of course, the third is kind of, if you look as the innovation progresses, a lot of these projects will need to raise funds. And I think that's where we're also moving to a very interesting space in Malaysia. In 2016, 2017, you may have heard of like this wave of ICOs or initial coin offerings. Essentially, it meant that myself and my friend in our garage could just then tell the world, here's a blockchain type project or cryptocurrency type project, and we're going to issue 1 million tokens, and then you would have sent us Ethereums or Bitcoins for those tokens. What really happened in that space, yes, there were some very legitimate projects which kind of evolved into some very notable ones that we know of today, but a lot of those also kind of just disappeared, right? And I think this is where we come back to this notion of like, are you investing in something that's safe in terms of that there may be business model risk, but they're not trying to scam you. And unfortunately, there were a lot of scams that happened in 2016, 2017, which is why I believe in the Malaysian regulatory environment, the DSC is moving towards where there will be an IEO operator, initial exchange offering operator. Essentially, it means an independent third party that would assess to see whether those projects are good and ready, and all of the promoters and everything are fit and proper. And so for you as an investor, when you're coming into this very, very early stage projects, this is really like the equivalent of seed investment or venture capital investment in the kind of stereotypical startup world, but in kind of like this cryptocurrency blockchain world, it's all through tokens. So to make sure that whoever's fundraising for these projects are in a way bertauliah. So we do think that that's a very good development in regulated markets. And we hope that this kind of emboldens a lot of investors to try to take that leap and support projects that you believe in. So having said that, there is a subclass of these blockchain applications which are called cryptocurrencies. And first and foremost, I just want to say that I'm personally not a big fan of the term cryptocurrencies themselves. The crypto part is what makes them special, what makes them interesting, what really makes them be able to do things that the traditional financial system or economic systems couldn't do before, and at scale. The currencies part is where I think a lot of people have maybe given too much attention to in the past, right? On this, I personally do concur with a lot of the central banks, which is that a Bitcoin is not a form of currency, an Ethereum is not a form of currency. There's so many layers to kind of the complexities of how we use currencies within our economies, so that it's actually much better to just concentrate on the fact of like what makes them interesting as crypto projects and what can they avail. But I believe that governments also will find a way to kind of balance that with the financial risk of introducing some of them into some of our economic transactions. So please think of them primarily as cryptos. The currency part, I think that the jury is still out on that, and I think time will tell how those will develop. What is quite interesting for those of you who may be following this space is that, of course, El Salvador is the first country in the world to kind of adopt a cryptocurrency as their base currency, right? Or as a recognized legal tender within the country. Many countries like Malaysia are considering this notion of what are called CBDCs, or central bank digital currencies, right? So I think these are things that which will develop over the next couple of years, and I think watch that space because I think that's where really fiat or traditional currency, bank paper notes, will kind of intersect with cryptocurrencies. So that it's still something that's developing, but do watch that space. So kind of get to where we are today, or kind of within this era that we're in now. Blockchain in itself is not new, right? So this idea of a better way to organize data and access data is also not new. But if we look at kind of how it's developed, it's really started from the late 90s. And where we are today in terms of the development, it's kind of like where the internet was in the 1990s. Very Wild West, a lot of things happening left, right, and center. It's kind of also hard to make sense of because you don't really know how everything's going to shape out, just like how I shared about the legal tender and also central bank digital coins. But really, if we kind of just trace back our steps, back in 2009, right? So that's a good almost 2 decades after the internet started developing. This gentleman or maybe lady named Satoshi Nakamoto, and again, that's a handle. What we understand is that there wasn't somebody actually named Satoshi Nakamoto, but that is the kind of pseudonym that this person went with. Developed this concept that would later be kind of accepted and known as Bitcoin, right? To decentralize ledgers and anonymity across the network, and essentially provide an alternative to what is the modern day concept of money. And that was really Bitcoin, right? And Bitcoin really started in 2009. And I think some of you who may have been following this space very, very early. To be honest, I've been in tech most of my life, and I never really took Bitcoin very seriously until maybe the mid 2010s. There was a lot of kind of like early stage advocates and guys who kind of believed in this, and that's probably when Bitcoin was probably worth multitudes less than a cent. And today's price is obviously that's day and night really. But 2009 is where we started, and towards kind of the late 2010s, toward kind of the turn into the 2011 2012s is when the adoption of kind of what would have been known as the base kind of cryptocurrencies kind of evolved, and somebody said, what else could we do with them, right? How could we make them smarter, faster? And that's where you had the advent of what's really called in this red space here, the smart contracts. So I think the most kind of well-known smart contract platform would be the Ethereum network. And that's really where you kind of start seeing a lot of automation beyond just this concept that a cryptocurrency could exist in place of kind of the financial and money system, right? And as a lot of these kind of scaled out, you'll see like towards the 2016 to 2017, that's when you had the ICO boom. A lot of new applications of how you would use blockchain and then essentially giving birth to new cryptocurrencies kind of happened. And Malaysia is not left behind, right? So what's really interesting for us about Malaysia is that if you look at the hash rate, which is an indication of how much processing power goes into the Bitcoin network, essentially how the miners, distribution of miners around the world. This is also one of the reasons why I kind of thought this is really something that Malaysia could win in, because I think we know the global superpowers of China and the US. That's kind of expected, and of course China dominates almost 50% of the hash rate. But as you kind of go through over time, you'll see that golden block that is representing Malaysia. I mean, it is not small or meaningless at all, right? So clearly Malaysia has participated in the Bitcoin network. And this is also interesting for us because it also means that a lot of guys, these miners, maybe at some point when they started, the coins were not worth as much pegged compared to what a dollar is trading at. But today, obviously, kind of like with the different busts and booms that we've had with the Bitcoin price action, obviously means quite a lot of money. But what's more important for us from an exchange point of view, it means that a lot of Malaysians or Malaysian-based people are holding lots of Bitcoin that can then go into the market, right? Maybe they've done something with those Bitcoin before, but maybe there's a group of them that's now going to start kind of investing it out or making it accessible to kind of sell through exchanges. And that's really what we're trying to partly achieve. And Bitcoin is a big deal. Even though Bitcoin is not the blockchain, it is the most dominant cryptocurrency in the world. There are over 6,000 cryptocurrencies, right? Every coin has an excellent little logo. But if you look at Bitcoin, it's just over 42% of all the volume traded in the world, and Ethereum is just over 18% of everything. So really between the two, they kind of dominate the whole market. Like over 60% of all coins of cryptocurrencies being traded around the world are really Bitcoin and Ethereum, which is why when we set off at MX Global, we decided those are the first two that we're going to start with, because we do recognize that yes, there are very sophisticated investors that have been in this space for a few years. They may go to other exchanges, but what's probably more important with Malaysia kind of just passing 3% penetration of cryptocurrencies is that we're going to look at the next that next 97%. How do we make sure that your first trading or investing experience in cryptocurrencies is with one of the more legitimate ones, and I wouldn't say safer investments, but because they are so dominant, Bitcoin and Ethereum typically should be in your stable anyway, right? It's the equivalent of buying a nice pair of black dress shoes for work. You might be wearing something fancy next Tuesday, but when you definitely need to have the black dress shoes in your wardrobe, because that's going to be usable and useful to you for a long time. So we do believe that Bitcoin and Ethereum are probably here to stay. I think some of those market dominance will change over time, but definitely they'll still be in the picture, I believe, and we believe at MX 10, 20, 30 years from now. So I do encourage people to start, if you want to start investing, start looking at these two cryptocurrencies first, because they are more complex. There are more, maybe even exciting projects out there, but Bitcoin and Ethereum dominate over 60% of the daily trading volume. So with all of this said, and all the things that have happened up to 2017, 2018, how will our economy here in Malaysia kind of change? Well, if you look to the left of this slide, you'll see, like, the cryptocurrencies already, a lot of them already existent, and people have started doing more interesting and fancy stuff with them and moving into fintech and lots of other distributed use cases. But where we really see kind of things changing is around this, how will we adopt it in Malaysia? So we believe that in Malaysia, let me touch on 5 and then let me touch on the 6, which we think is the most interesting. Personalization and fiat currency specificity is very important, because we are a small nation. The ringgit is not highly traded all over the world. So some level of integration through cryptocurrencies and blockchain throughout our kind of, and we're also a trading nation. So throughout kind of our trade, I think it's very important to kind of look at that. And then with that is that this idea that identity has to come into play, whether you as a person or as a company, and maybe some of the innovation will be in kind of reinventing the way that finance is done, how things are insured, how things are financed essentially for a trade. That might change. So I think a lot of these spaces will be looked at with the new IEO players, and hopefully we'll see that maybe some of the new projects will be coming out of Malaysia that's going to be looking at how do you reinvent some of these things with blockchain specific to a Malaysian type use case. So that's really what we're really looking forward to. At the same time, I think globally, you would have heard of things like Axie or CryptoPunks. So some of them become games, some of them become just really collectible, but this space of non-fungible tokens where no two tokens are ever the same is super interesting. And yeah, I would say highly speculative, similar to like how people have done art and the arts in the past. But I think we really cannot deny that it's kind of exploded really. Maybe at a separate session, we can talk through like why we think a lot of people are kind of latching onto this NFT bandwagon. But I think what's true is that a lot of new technologies will always be used for entertainment first, and something which is entertaining and basically something that you can turn around and tell your friends, hey, I read this interesting thing yesterday, or I have this interesting thing. A bit of like, I guess if you're a millennial, like it's a bit of a, do they call it like flex, right? So maybe that flex kind of element is quite important for this new generation. And that's also something we have to bear in mind, which is a lot of guys who are investing to cryptos, typically it is like a first ever investment. They may not have touched the previous capital markets before, and they are by and large a lot younger than the ones who are on the other capital or whether equity or debt capital markets. They're much younger. And so, this shift in investor behavior is going to be very, very important. Which brings me to our point, which is that if you look right dead center within, we think the tokenization of real world assets is really what's going to change the game for a country like Malaysia, where our economy is dependent on a lot of foreign direct investments. But at the same time, I'm sure if you've looked around, if you take, for example, like real estate, I think if you've been living in KL, Penang, or Johor, one of the largest cities, you've seen that it's been really dominated by financiers who have, and contractors who have come from overseas, predominantly maybe China. So a lot of this ownership, right? And maybe I don't even have to repeat about like the kind of experience of like Forest City, where we're building an amazing city, but Malaysians are not really living there. Some of these things are getting very far out of reach for a lot of Malaysians. So maybe it's time to rethink the ownership model of that, right? Maybe renting a property is long term, but owning a property could be something that you do as part of a crowd. So I think we're very excited for the prospect of maybe tokenizing real estate. We, as in, MX, with the industry, like MX will remain as an exchange. We're also quite excited about maybe new things like carbon credits, or maybe even if these new investors are not accessing the stock market directly, maybe there are equity wrappers, or maybe even debt instrument wrappers, right? That makes that more accessible. What I typically say to a lot of my friends is that today I'm learning a lot from YouTube, but the new generation is learning from TikTok. So learning is the common thing that we have to strive towards, but the medium and then the way that they access the information and consume it will change. So I think as much as we would love to have our stock markets and debt capital markets continue, they should continue also in the path of evolution, right? And then kind of make it more accessible to how this new generation of investors are going to access these products. So I think that gives it away. Like MX, we're really looking forward to a lot of local projects. And that's really where we see our value add long-term to the industry, that we want to support a lot of Malaysian-based projects which are looking at Malaysian-centric and maybe even ASEAN-centric problem sets, and making that accessible to the wider audience of investors as a trading platform. I think IEO players will, I think when that comes through, please get in touch with them if you're interested to kind of back those projects early. But hopefully we're hoping to host them on the secondary or trading market so that you can get access to them, like I guess the equivalent of post-IPO, or in this case, IEO. So we're moving towards that direction. And I think we are so honored to be joining, the first 3 exchanges which have been, in existence since 2019. MX is the new kid on the block. We've been around only since really July, and we were only available to the market towards the end of August. But we're so inspired by what Luno and Synergy and Tokenize have kind of achieved over the last few years. I think these guys have really pushed the envelope quite a lot to kind of get us to that 3%. So we believe that together we'll get that 3% penetration up to maybe the next 10%, the next 20%. Because personally, I feel, and the team at MX feels, that cryptocurrency and access to this in a safe way, without scams and all that, is really important for the arguably younger up and coming investors, right? So we want to make sure that we work very closely on those. So do check out any of our sites, mxglobal.com.my, Luno's at luno.com, synergy.com.my, and also tokenizemalaysia.com. So do be safe, invest smart, and invest safe for your preferred cryptocurrencies and any of the 4 regulated and licensed DEXs. Okay, now having said that, I think if you're interested and you're probably thinking to yourself, how do I buy my first Bitcoin, right? How do I get into this thing that Satoshi Nakamoto started in 2009 that was, that has been skyrocketing? And at the time of the recording of this webinar, Bitcoin and in fact all the cryptocurrencies have just taken a bit of a plunge, which I guess for a lot of investors is always like, they call it buy at the dip. So I do see us being in a dip right now. So I think this is a great time to kind of be entering the market. Do your research before that. But as I said, maybe Bitcoin and Ethereum are good places to start because they are so dominant within the daily trading volume. So we're available at mxglobal.com.my, right? Just go to their website, and then what we've done is we just want to support everyone to be able to get on there. So we're dropping all of our trading fees until February. So you get on there, and then you click that button on the top right, log in, sign up. and you get to this page where you kind of tell us not about yourself, but actually just, with your email and password, and being Malaysian, then you kind of read all of the disclaimers that we have up there, and then you click sign up. It should be very, very, very easy, and then you'll be able to log in. When you do that, you'll get an email confirmation, and it'll look something like this, and then it'll say that your email has been verified because you received this kind of hyperlink and you clicked it, right? You sign in again, and you get to this page, which basically tells you, hey, welcome to MX. But at level 0, you can check out all of the features, but you can't start investing yet, right? So it's very important, and we do agree with this, that as a licensed exchange, we make sure that every player and every investor on the exchange is verified, so that you're investing very safely with other people who have been vetted, and hopefully you guys have a great time trading between each other. But we do want to weed out any bad actors, right? And kind of minimize undue risk exposure. So you get to this page in settings, and also I don't have it now because I've already signed up for an account, but you'll have a ribbon at the top of your screen that says get verified, right? And you click that, and you basically upgrade limits. We have 3 limits right now in MX. From level 0, you don't trade 1, 2, and 3. As you progress up, you can do more volumes. You can deposit and withdraw more funds, and I think that's where you will naturally progress as you have a great time kind of investing in crypto. So when you click that, it's fairly straightforward. You tell us about yourself. You give us information like I see that we can verify and everything, and tell us a bit more about how you're kind of investing, and if you're high net worth, your income, so that we make sure, again, maintaining the quality of investors which are on the platform, to make sure that you're all able to trade safely, yes, but also with people who are able to take that kind of risk, right? So finally, you get to a point where you just tell us which bank account that you're more than likely to do the deposit from, and please then update and help us out with some proof of address documents, right? This could be anything like your utility bill, the bank statement, basically to confirm that your address is your address, and ideally, if you give us a bank statement that we know that it's the same bank account that you're going to be depositing from. Again, all of this is trying to make sure that it's all safe. Once you do that, you upload the documents, and then we verify you as you. So we work with on Fido, and you can do this all through your phone. MX Global is actually right now available through desktop only, as we kind of work and learn through our community what's working best and what they're looking forward to. We will develop a mobile app. We are already starting to develop that. But for now, you do most of this on the desktop. And then, of course, you get to this point where you can continue on your phone. So with your phone, you just you get a secure link sent. You click that, and then it will look like this. You scan that with your phone, and then you end up going to on Fido site, which will ask you to submit your identity card. So you do that, take a picture of this. Please do not screenshot this picture, but just as an example, and we blur out everything. It will verify that. It will verify also the back of the ID card, and then we're off to the selfie, right? So you take a selfie of yourself, and that's Ray, one of my colleagues, looking very handsome and very, very brave in the pink from Cosmo Point. And yeah, and that's all there is to it. So we make sure that this is the same person that's told us about yourself and what and how you're going to join our platform. We make sure that it's really you, and the verification happens. And really within the next few hours, and a maximum of 24 hours, we approve you into level 1. And then here's where the fun begins. You get into your own dashboard that you can then either upgrade to a higher level, or you can even start trading, right? But let's check out what the wallets are first. So we support right now Ringgit deposits, also Bitcoin and Ethereum that you can bring from other exchanges. So how does it work? If you click the Ringgit wallet, you click the deposit button. It's very simple. You do it however you currently do your transfers right now. We give you our trust account. So your money never sits directly with MX, it sits with our trust. That's part of the regulations, and that's probably what is part of what makes us safe for you to trade on, right? And then you you tell us how much you've deposited. You send over the evidence, and our team confirms that. And once that's there, then that gets captured in our system, and then your wallet will be updated. So that's where, if you go look into the transactions, if something didn't go well, our team will kind of reach out to you. But assuming then that, and sometimes this happens because the picture is blurry, but if you're doing a screenshot, it's typically very, very easy to do this. And then we recognize that very quickly for you. And yeah, so as you can see in this case here, we had a bit of a problem. All of that was resolved in just over half an hour on the same day. So this user was able to have 10,000 ringgit into their account straight away, so they can start trading, right? Similarly, if you click on the Bitcoin tab of that, or the Bitcoin wallet, you can send and receive Bitcoins. You can send it out of MX later into anywhere you want, into your own Trezor wallet or your own NanoX ledger, or maybe to another platform altogether, right? Many people have multiple crypto accounts across all of the 4 regulated players. That might be part of your strategy in investing. So we more than welcome that. And really, if when you click addresses, you'll be given what is your MX Bitcoin wallet address for you to be able to send funds in. And then once you kind of top that up, like in this case, this is all a demo. I don't actually have $1 million ringgit on the MX Global or MX Exchange right now, but as part of the demo, so this ringgit wallet has been topped up, and of course there's about 2 Bitcoins in the wallet. And again, just part of the demo. So looking through our trading dashboard, you can see the current order book. You can scroll down. You can see in green the prices people are willing to buy for, and in red the prices that people are willing to sell for, right? So if you click any of these, we would auto-populate that, and then you let us know how much of those you want to buy. We would do the transaction. At the same time, if you look on the other side of the screen, on the right hand side, you can see all the recent trades. You can kind of see people's appetite, or you can refer to this chart, which is right in the middle of the screen, which kind of shows you the price action day to day, week to week, hour to hour. You can set all of those and kind of decide for yourself when you want to come into the market, when you want to be able to sell some of your holdings. So coming back to doing a sale or a purchase, it's if you see on the bottom left, we have a tab there that's called, you can choose between limit order and fill and kill. I'll run through both of it today. It's fairly straightforward. We're trying to design. I know it looks a bit scary because it is a trading dashboard, but we've tried to design all of the functions to be very, very super simple and straightforward, right? So that there are no, you don't have to read between the lines. You really know what you're gonna get. So if you want to buy, you click on one of the sell prices. So in this case, I clicked on a price that was there before, right? So sorry, this is a sell order. So if I click that and then I put how much of the Bitcoins I want to buy, then a pop-up will say, you confirm that you have this. You can do this as long as you have, if in the case that you're buying, as long as you have enough ringgit in your wallet, we allow you to do that. If you don't have enough, then of course a pop-up will come out that says, oh, you have to top up your wallet, or maybe you want to revise the amount that you want to buy, right? So that's a fairly straightforward way. It's really spot, you know exactly what you want to buy for the price that you want. You put it in and we process that order. Or a lot of our users like to use this fill and kill order, which is, kind of takes a lot of the legwork out from you. So you put in how much Bitcoin you want to buy, for example, buy, or you can also sell. And then what our system will do is it will just, in this case, if you're going to buy, it will start buying from the lowest possible price until it can fill up your order, or until your funds are kind of enable. So we'll clear the order for you at the lowest possible price, and then move upwards one step at a time to what people are offering. And if at some point it's filled, then the whole order is done. But also if the whole order cannot be fulfilled, it'll be partly fulfilled, and then the whole order is taken off the exchange. So really, really simple. I do encourage all of you to come on to MX, top up with a few ringgit. I get it a lot of people ask, what's the minimum amount I need to kind of buy Bitcoin with? And to be honest, if today you kind of topped up 50 ringgit, you'll be able to buy, because Bitcoin is infinitely divisible. So you could buy an amount of Bitcoin today with even 50 ringgit. So that's why we decided to drop the trading fees, because not only do we want to encourage you to invest in Bitcoin, but when that price goes up and you think it's the right time to sell, you don't have to think twice about how much that would translate to in terms of exchange transaction fee cost. We absorb all of that for you for now. And so that's why I really encourage all of you, please check out mxglobal.com.my, sign up today. Do let us know if you have any problems, and then we can guide you through. But yes, I think that brings us to the end of the presentation. Thank you so much for having us. Thank you to the SE and InvestSmart. And I hope that's kind of shared a little bit with our perspective of where we think the market is going. So look out for that. We hope within the next year or so, we'll also be onboarding lots of new coins, and especially lots of local coins, like local cryptocurrency projects, to kind of push the industry forward here in Malaysia. So with that, I just want to thank the SE once again, and maybe Jeanette, back to you.
Thank you very much, Datuk Fazli, for your presentation. We would like to go to the Q&A part now, but I think you've actually addressed most of the questions, like minimal withdrawal, minimum investment, as well as what are the cryptos that is being traded, which I believe is Bitcoin and Ethereum, right?
Yep, that's right.
Right, and okay, maybe just one more time you want to reiterate, because we have a few questions on what are the withdrawal fees, and also what is the promotion. And you did mention that it's basically for now, it's there is no fee, right? Can you just?
Yes, yeah. So I think if you look across the board, whether in the regulated or unregulated space, typically there is a transaction fee, right? So when you buy and sell Bitcoin or Ethereum, what we've decided to do is, because we got this a lot in the beginning, people will say, hey, if I go to a local exchange, I won't say the name, but there's another large international exchange that they say, those guys are only charging me 0.1%, right? Or 0.00075%. So we said, at those economics, like the transaction fees are so immaterial to us, it's quite small anyway. So we said, why not we just go 100% 0% just to support all the Malaysians who want to try to kind of enter this space. So yes, we do thank the SE, because the SE allowed us to do this for 6 months at least. So up till February, any Bitcoin and Ethereum that you buy and sell on MX is a 0% trading fee across the board. We do have a withdrawal fee, right? Maybe that some of the viewers might be interested in that. And again, we try to really drive that down to very nominal, which is just 10 cents. So no matter the amount that you're withdrawing back to your bank account, once you've kind of liquidated your holdings, when you want to do those, it's only 10 cents. And when you push money into, or rather deposit money into MX, it's zero, right? We absorb all of that. So we hope that you have a great time and take advantage of the fact that that my team and I are working very hard at 0% fees.
All right, that's great. Okay, there's a few more questions on the chat. Are there any plans to expand the current portfolio of crypto offered? And so which coins for MX Exchange? Definitely. So
we really believe in kind of building this together with our users. So what we do is we send internal questions and surveys to our users, right? So we have been getting feedback, and so there's 2 ways of doing this. Number one, you could respond to one of our internal surveys where we kind of we kind of ask users to suggest, and we kind of from there try to gauge what the interest is of demand of certain coins, or 2, just write into us directly, right? Even on the main email for mxglobal.com.my, we check that every day. In fact, multiple times a day. So if there is a coin that you really want to have posted, let us know, and we might be able to work very closely with you and that project to try to get that on MX. In terms of which coins are we looking forward to immediately do, of course, Bitcoin and Ethereum are, as I said, the dominant ones. But safe to say that all of the ones on the top 20 list, we've had at least one incident where users have kind of requested the new ones. Some of the top 20s. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, we are running out of time, but just last questions. So basically, can the public deposit foreign currencies in MX? And also, what affects the prices of cryptocurrencies? Are you able?
Okay. So for foreign currencies, no, currently not, right? We are working quite closely with the SC, but the current position is that all trades are 2 ringgit fiat, and so all deposits are also in ringgit fiat. So we do encourage people who want to do it in foreign currencies to kind of look at depositing that into ringgit, really to kind of get your account up and running. Sorry, what was the last part of the question?
What basically
what affects the movement? Oh,
right.
wow, this is, I think we need a whole other hour to kind of explore this, but basically it is significantly different than kind of like it has not really moved in tandem with the share market and the forex market. It has not, right, historically, but recently in the last week or so, you've seen that because again, I don't want to get too economist in this topic, but there are times where it does all move in the same direction. So the equities, bonds, and also cryptocurrency markets in the last 2 weeks kind of moved really in the same direction with some announcements that some large players in China are coming up to the end of their loan terms, right? So it is a very, very complicated question to look at, but I would say as you look into the space, go and find the verified sources of information, the major influencers within the space. And yes, a lot of people do kind of follow those guys, which I think is such an amazing part of this asset class compared to the stock market, right? With the stock market, I really want to rely on my investment bank analysts going to tell me like which is good or not. But here it's like things are happening on Twitter, things are happening on TikTok, things are happening on social media that actually affect the prices real time. And I think maybe in closing, Jeanette, I just want to share that the big difference really with the crypto market with the other markets is that this is a 24/7 market, right? So we have multiple shifts even in MX because it's continuously available. So all around the clock. So yeah, when China sleeps and America wakes up, then things happen in the price. And then when America sleeps and then the rest of the countries, the rest of the world starts trading, also things happen with the price. So it is a very, very exciting time to be trading cryptocurrencies.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Fazli. Thank you everyone for joining us today. And Dr. Fazli, thank you very, very much for speaking today at our webinar. Don't forget, if you wish to rewatch this webinar, this will be uploaded on our YouTube channel in due course. Do also check out our previous webinars on our YouTube channel. Just a quick reminder to all, always check if you're dealing with authorized companies, individuals before parting with your money. And also remember to never deposit money into an individual bank account, even if they are licensed or registered with authorities.